Expression FM presents Guild Election Week.
Start now. I'm James, and I'm the head of news for Expression FM. So far, so good. Maybe after this debate, we'll see. And I'm going to be hosting tonight's debate. It's a very, very big debate in that we've got 8 candidates and plenty of issues to talk about. So without further ado, we're going to go from right to left. So we've got Catalina Caramani.
Yes.
You prefer Cat or Catalina?
Cat. Vote Cat.
We have Hope Hughes. We have Jess Cassidy. And then we have Louise Ord. We have a round of applause for all 4 of them, please. And then we have Nicola Wong.
Hi.
We have Elena Savitska. We have Hayden Cooper. And we have Sam Shee. Can we have a round of applause for these 4 as well? Right, so as you can tell, there's a lot of them, so we're going to be quite strict on the format today. We've got a 1-minute introduction from each of the candidates, and I am going to be very tight on timing. I'm going to warn you because there's 8 of you, unfortunately. I think I have a couple of questions from me to each of you individually, and then the famous buzzer round. We have got extra questions in the buzzer round, so there's a lot of you, so there's a bit more to play for. And then finally, we're going to open questions to the audience for the second half of the debate. If you do have questions you'd like to send in, either tweet at XpressionFM News or the hashtag #ExeterVotes, and we'll have some minions underneath the staircase, or we're making note and passing those to me throughout the debate. So just to make a quick note on timing, we are going to be very strict. I will cut you off if you look like you're taking too long, so be careful. I'd also like you to keep your responses to a minimum of new information. So let's just say, for example, Hayden makes a very good point about some issue or other, and let's say, Louise, you entirely agree with Hayden. So you're like, I agree with Hayden, completely done. If you, on the other hand, disagree with Hayden or feel like Hayden's policy isn't good enough, you're adding new information to the debate. So just so we don't get caught up in 8 people going, I agree with so-and-so's policy, let's keep it moving, because there's 8 of you, there's so much to talk about, and without that, I'm going to stop rambling as well. So, let's start on the left-hand side.
Hi, friend.
Hello, Sam, is your microphone working?
I think it is.
Sounds
but
good.
I'll just talk a bit louder.
That's fine. So, your 1 minute to
Yeah.
explain why you'd be good as a candidate starts now.
Basically, ooh, that's loud. Okay, basically, as my tagline says, she cares for you, so I care for each and every one of you. I want to listen to you. I want to know what matters to you, and basically, if I do get a position, I'm just ever so willing for you to just come to me and just talk to me about anything and everything in the universe. Even if it is like a pie recipe, I don't really mind. So yeah, and I generally just want to be there for you and as your candidate. So yeah.
You've still got another 30 seconds. Do you want to go on?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, I'll take that. And then Hayden, your minute starts now.
Cool, I'm Hayden, and I think that Exeter really needs radical change. For the past 3 years, I've worked every single second at this university to bring about the changes that I feel need to happen. From Liberation Council to Guild Council to working on national policy with the NUS, I have been there. And I would like to continue to be there, to see the changes in Exeter that I feel need to happen. Honestly, don't really care about the job, just want the changes done. You can keep your money, to be honest. I'd like it, but honestly, we need radical mental health changes. Everybody at Exeter is having a real stressful time, and we need to actually question why. This isn't normal. It shouldn't be normal. What can we do? And we need to tackle the causes, not the symptoms. So yeah, vote HJC.
You've also got another 15 seconds if you want to go on.
No, I'm all right. I'm all right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, I'd like to be the first SAB from a council estate in living memory. So.
I think that was worth staying on for. Elena, you've got a minute starting now.
Right. So, although I'm only a second-year student, unlike everyone else, I've been in Exeter for 3 years now. I also used to be Inter student, so I do know what issues international students face particularly, and I do want to focus on them, but I don't want to forget about British students as well. What else? I feel like the psychological aspect is the most important and the one that needs most attention, but I also don't want to forget other issues the students face and don't limit well-being to just psychological issues.
You've also got 20 seconds.
That's it, I'm
Cool.
fine.
Oh, don't be sorry. You've got as many time as you want. Nicola, you ready?
Yeah.
Off you go.
So I'm Nick Wong, and over the last year, I've had a really difficult year, and I'm not going to lie, the SABs, like the Guild, has been there for me, and that is something I appreciate so much. And the reason why I want to run is because I want to support everyone else. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I want to support everyone else the way the Guild has supported me. The Guild is capable of so much, and all they want to do is just be there for you. And I am so committed to being part of that movement. There is so much to be done. You know, we have to tackle issues with racism. Our campus is so diverse, and we all seem to forget. And there's always this perception that, oh, it's just, you know, people from Surrey. That's a lie. And, you know, there's so much we can do, and there's so much to be done, like emotional support, students supporting each other. We have a fantastic community, one of the strongest I've ever seen, and I think it's, you know, I want to build it bigger.
And that's your minute.
Sorry.
No, don't worry. Right, Louise, you feeling ready?
No.
I'm afraid we've got to go anyway.
Okay. Hi, I'm Louise Ord. I'm a fifth-year part-time postgraduate. I'm doing a Master's in the Philosophy and Sociology of Science, and I did my undergraduate in psychology. I work at the Student Information Desk, and I'm a student community warden. I've worked at this uni for a long time. I've studied here for a long time. I've stressed here for an incredibly long time, and I want to do everything I can to give students a voice and to combat all the problems we have with mental health, to implement productive preventative strategies that will reduce attention on well-being and offer SAB communication and transparency that allows diverse groups to let us know how they're doing and how we can help them.
Another 20 seconds?
Don't be ignored, vote Ord.
Wow, ended with a slogan. Jess, off you go.
Hi everyone, I'm Jess Cassidy. I'm a fourth-year student. I study French, Spanish and International Relations. I'm a student ambassador, part of the Soul Choir, play a bit of sport. I've always been kind of involved in societies, but this year particularly I got involved with Ethical Exeter, which is a campaign supported by the Guild and the Student Green Unit. And through that I realised just how much the SABs actually do, how much change can be brought about. And it made me realise really how much can be done to make sure that every student here really does get the opportunity to make the most of their time here. And so I want to approach that in a few ways. Firstly, making sure that barriers like mental health never get in the way of students from making the most of their time here. Also making sure that diversity is seen in a positive light, celebrate it more, and also take practical steps to make sure that the Guild reaches out to every single student, that the information needed to be involved is clearer, and just to make sure that all students really do have the information they need and the support they need.
And that's your minute.
Is that my time?
That is your time.
Thank you.
Hope, your minute starts now.
Hi, I'm Hope Hughes, a third-year history and politics student. My manifesto tries to encompass as many areas of welfare and diversity that I thought necessary. It's not just mental well-being, even though that could be a main focus of mine because I'm a co-president of Mind Your Head this year. But it also focuses on accessibility, it focuses on affordability, sexual health. I think they're things that are really important, and I think one of the main things I want to deliver as a SAB, and one of the reasons that I put my drop-in sessions as such a top priority, is that I want you to feel like nothing is off limits for you to come and talk to me about. Student welfare encompasses a massive, diverse range of issues, and I don't think that if you have an issue to do with, say, addiction or sex or abortion services, I don't want anyone to ever feel like limited about how they can come to me and what they can come to me about. I want to be the SAB that is accessible. I want to be the SAB that you feel comfortable talking to.
And finally, Kat, your minute starts now.
Hi, I'm Kat. My microphone's kind of dropping out, so apologies about that. But I have many, many manifesto points, and I'm sure I've bugged some of you with my "can I convince you in 10 seconds" spiel. But one main thing is there's free self-defense classes, which I've already begun to put in place. Let me try and adjust this. I'm currently DVP Wellbeing, and so I know how the Guild works, and I've seen effective changes being made, and a lot of my manifesto points from last year are in the process of being completed. So Cat cares, vote Cat.
Do you want another 30 seconds?
Okay, let's go. Okay, so free self-defense classes, free meditation classes, January exams over 2 weeks, no more Saturday exams, reading weeks for all students in both the terms, subsidies for societies for students who can't afford it. That one's really important to me because I think everyone deserves an equal opportunity. Multi-faith prayer spaces, because every faith is so important. It's not just one. And yeah, big cat, I reckon that's 30 seconds.
That is, yeah, well done.
There we go, time
Okay.
perfect.
And as you can tell, that was 15 minutes, so I'm going to make this next round as fast as possible. So, Jess, starting with your manifesto, you said you're going to completely subsidise graduation gowns, so all the costs. Now, we did some sums. There are 18,000 undergrad students in Exeter. If we assume a third of them are going to graduate this year, grad gowns roughly cost between 25 and 75. The most reputable company says about 40 to 50. £45, the average, times 6,000 is £100,000. How are you going to subsidise that money?
Basically, I'm very glad I don't study maths anymore. That was intense. Basically, we pay so much in tuition fees. The university does have money. I've spoken with Alec, the current VP, and he always says, if you can justify it enough that it is what students need, then there is money available. Also, hopefully...
So can you justify it?
Can I justify it?
How
Yes.
would you justify it?
Oh, yes, definitely. So I feel like graduating from uni is the last thing you do when you leave uni. The point of education isn't just to get a degree, it's to be inspired to be to learn things throughout your whole life. And I think as the last thing you do, being either your university making you pay to attend your graduation ceremony, or making it free and a gift from your university and showing their appreciation of the time you've spent here learning. I think it's a really important message to say that actually our university cares about our students and want to subsidise graduation gowns.
Okay, Sam?
Yep.
You said that you want to expand Never Okay to talk about combating racism.
Yeah.
So doesn't that get away from the actual point of Never Okay, which talks mostly about consent and gender empowerment?
Well, to me, Never Okay talks about how things such as sexual harassment and drink spiking is not okay, just not an okay thing to do. And I personally think that racism is also a very not okay thing to do, because I personally have tons of friends who have been affected by racial attacks and racial prejudice. Like sometimes I've been attacked by racial prejudice when I was walking back late at night and stuff like that. And I think that's something that university students should know and understand, and know that it's just not okay to be prejudiced against someone just because of how they're born. That's just not okay.
And then moving on to Elena. Now, your manifesto is pretty radically different to most other candidates in that it doesn't mention the Wellbeing Centre, it doesn't mention housing, and it doesn't mention mitigation. So I guess my question to you would be, why are the issues that you highlight, such as like a coin machine in the forum, more important than issues that crop up in other people's manifestos?
Well, I would say that, first of all, we need to break all the huge issues down into smaller issues. And if we do that, we kind of come up with these aspects I described. If we take psychological aspects, again, for instance, printers and coin machines. If you have exams and deadlines and you're stressed, not being able to exchange notes for coins or not being able to print out everything you need just adds to your stress. And then, if we are capable of removing and resolving these issues, we should do that.
I understand that, I really do, but are you equating essay deadline stress to mental health provision?
Not at all, not
Okay.
at all. I did mention Wellbeing Centre in one of my points when I was talking about online platform for psychological support.
But
That
that's
would be
not the actual
supported by
Wellbeing Centre, though. The actual
that would be
physical body.
supported by the Wellbeing Centre. Because originally, as I intended to fulfill this promise, the whole system should have been supervised by one of the well-being workers. I've done some research, and I know that the Wellbeing Centre is really understaffed. They have 45 workers there and 2 trainees. So if it's understaffed, it's kind of more difficult to employ more people, rather than just creating an online platform where you have just 1 or 2 experts.
But that wasn't on your manifesto, though.
That was.
I mean, you said the online thing, but the understaffed bit just wasn't there. Anyway, I'll leave it. Louise.
Hello.
You're the only postgraduate on the panel, as far as I'm aware.
I am.
How does your perspective differ to other undergrads? What do you think that are issues that are more important to you, having done a postgraduate?
Having done a postgraduate, there have been a few things I've experienced, and I know a few postgraduates as well. For example, PhD students who teach, they have had changes to their contracts, which means that they now go through e-claims and they are not treated as full salaried staff members, and they have to total up their hours of how long they're teaching, how long they're marking, and then input them into e-claims, which is a system that is very complicated. And it just makes their life a lot more difficult when they're doing their PhD, they're doing research, and they're also teaching undergraduate students. For me, one of the issues I faced as a postgraduate was the fact that if you work for the university, as I do, they cap your working hours. So you're only, as a part-time postgraduate, you're only allowed to work 18 hours. As a full-time postgraduate, you're allowed to work 6, and as an undergraduate, you're allowed to work 15. And in my experience, I did a part-time postgraduate because I need to work to earn money, so I can pay my council tax, and I can pay my rent, and I can live. And being capped at 18 hours would force me into getting a job outside in the city that maybe pays less an hour, so I'd end up working more hours. And then it's kind of counterproductive to them capping my hours for my welfare. I think they should give us the kind of responsibility and the means to make our own choices for that.
And then Hope, giving drug testing kits to a load of students.
Yes.
Now, a point that could be made against would be that they encourage drug use.
This is a point that my campaign team grilled me on. This is a point that I've been grilled on the Hill yesterday and today. And my response to that is that I think it's very naive to assume that, bearing in mind British culture is very anti-drugs, it's very naive to assume that the Guild reinforcing that point is going to make any difference to drug consumption. What will make a difference to drug consumption is people having the resources and having the means to do so safely. I think that the Guild really needs to not be taking reactionary measures towards drug use. Last year in the news, there was a big incident with an individual dying in Bristol because the drug that they had taken wasn't what they expected it to be, and it is a massive issue, but we shouldn't wait for something like that to happen in Exeter for us to say, actually, this drug policy doesn't work. And it is something that Newcastle Student Union have already adopted, so it can work on a university platform.
And then Hayden, I apologise for the quick by nature, we're going very fast through them. You are the only candidate to mention Prevent in your manifesto.
Yes.
Can I ask, it's a really large part of your manifesto, so why did you feel it was important to include?
I feel it's important to include because Prevent is the biggest issue that no one is talking about. It's that the 3-year-olds being arrested, students being investigated for doing their coursework. Frankly, it's criminal. The new definition of extremism, which Prevent pushes as well, also limits political freedoms. And the Guild currently has a no cooperation policy with Prevent, as Prevent unfairly targets Muslim and black and minority ethnic students, as well as international students. So it's great that we have this no cooperation policy, but what's actually done with it? And the answer to that is very little. There's no information about Prevent made public, there's nothing at all. In fact, the NUS's policy is to have a talk about Prevent every year, and it didn't happen until my society, as well with Feminist Society, Friends of Palestine, Islamic Society, and Feminist Society, invited the NUS down on ourselves. That should be the Guild doing that. The Guild has an obligation to let all students know about Prevent and its cooperation with it, and frankly, it's letting the team down.
Okay. And then, so Kat,
Yes.
there are 3 things on your manifesto that I think I would be concerned about, which is self-defence classes, a nap room, and a qualification for basic student counselling. The reason I'm concerned is that these are all things you promised to do last year in your position of DVP Wellbeing that you still currently hold. So if you promised to do these things last year and you didn't achieve them, why should we trust you to accomplish them this year?
That's a very good question, but let me tell you, it might not be present yet, but literally last week I had a meeting about nap rooms, which has been ongoing since September. The issue is space, however, it's possible to have it in the chaplaincy rooms near the old library in term 3, or in Washington Singer more regularly, and I've had meetings about that. Regarding self-defence classes, all I was waiting for was insurance. That came through yesterday, but obviously I'm campaigning at the moment, so I can't actually do that. But that is something that's available, I guess, from next week.
So if they're already available, why are they on your manifesto?
Because they haven't come into action yet, and that's something that I'd want to continue. Because once I'm out of DVP Wellbeing, then who's to say it would continue? So it's something that I'd want to continue. What was the third one, sorry?
It was a qualification for students to run basic counselling sessions.
Yeah, obviously there's only so much that I can do in a year with all my other responsibilities and degree. But if I got this role, it's for an entire year focusing just on that, and that's something that's so achievable.
But I guess the point is, and I'm not sure if maybe I'm not saying it right, is that although it's something you couldn't do with your student degree, it's something that you said you could do in your manifesto. So you said you could do it, and then you didn't.
Yeah, well...
So now you're saying you can do it again.
Well, two out of three of the things you brought up are in process. And you know what? My term's not over. Okay. I've got all of this term and next term. To be fair, I haven't even had half of my year yet, so watch this space.
Awesome. And then finally, Nick.
Hi.
Let's say I missed out. Please tell me if I do. So what's your plan to relocate the advice unit?
So basically, I have been in discussion with Alec, and I know that, you know the A and B space, if you go down towards the booth, there are like those spaces on the side, I think they're on the left. I know that those spaces, they are going to be turned into spaces for student groups. I don't know if I can say which student groups, like I don't know if I'm allowed to, but I know they're being turned into student groups, and I know these student groups have lobbied for a space somewhere else on campus, and that space happens to be right near where the advice unit is currently. So I think that because these student groups have such an incredible online platform, students know about it, they're not going to forget. It's such a core part of our uni experience. They don't need to be in such a centralized space, whereas the advice unit, I have felt stigma going into the advice unit. I didn't even know it existed, and being tucked away, and there's almost no social media presence. Why not relocate it to a central destination? People are in and out. It takes away stigma, because you know what? They deal with so much more than just well-being. They deal with things like finance, mitigation, any kind of support. So why not put them in a place where people know where they are and they have better access to students?
But you would have to take away the space promised to a society already.
I don't think it's promised. I know it's in the works, and if they are going to follow on that promise, and the advice unit is in that space that they originally wanted, I don't see what the problem is with switching the spaces.
And the other thing I'd say is, so this space, you're going to give it to advice unit.
Yeah.
What's the design for that space?
I believe they're being turned into a few little offices, and because they're being turned into offices, it allows for confidential conversations to be had, because that's what the advice unit currently has.
But it all depends on what those plans are. So if the plans aren't for offices, if it's just an open plan place, it can't be confidential.
Then I would lobby for it to be changed, or I would lobby to find another space in Devonshire House, because right now the advice unit is such an underrated source of support. They are absolutely incredible, and I think it's such an injustice that they are tucked away where they are now. I'd like to do everything I can to help get the word out and let people know that they're there.
Okay, right. That's all for the candidates' questions from me. I think you're probably a bit relieved. Can we now move on to the buzzer round? Can people test their buzzers? We'll go from this side to this side. Kat? Hope?
Oh, I like it.
I'm going to I'm going to have no clue what's going on. Right, so we're going to get started quickly. What is the name of the head of the Wellbeing Centre? I'm going to say that's
Hope.
Yeah.
Mark Sawyer.
Yep, that is correct. 1 point to Hope. Woo! Thank you, audience. The second time is, what does RID stand for?
Reporting Information Directory.
And what is its purpose?
It's for if you experience any harassment of any sort, you can fill in an anonymous form.
That is a point to Kat. Thank you very much. Okay, what is, and there's a bonus point for its price, the cheapest meal on campus?
Was
I heard a buzzer. I
think it was me, but if someone else...
No, it was you.
It was you, okay.
Was it meal price, sorry?
Where could you find the cheapest meal on campus, and what is its price for a bonus point? I'm going to go over... Yeah. Comida? No.
Is it the Guild Shop for $2.99?
Guild Shop for $2.45. So I'll give you 1 point for that.
Thank you.
And then, could we have... this is a difficult one. Brace yourselves. Where would you find the Muslim prayer rooms? Samshi?
Old library downstairs.
Yes, point for Samshi. Round of applause, please. What is an ILP? I think that was Hope.
It's an independent learning plan or program.
It's an...
Individual learning program?
Individual, not independent. Oh.
I was going to say that's incorrect, but yeah, Kat gets the point, unfortunately. And then, what times can I contact Nightline? Who was first?
Kat.
Yeah.
Okay, Kat.
8:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. every night, every day.
That's incorrect.
8 till 8.
I'm just getting confused.
Oh.
Yeah, I heard 8 till 8, I'll give you that. Jess Cassidy. Give a round of applause, please. We will keep this going as fast as possible. President of Community Welfare FXU.
Oh.
I'll repeat this one.
Alexa?
That's her first name.
Oh.
Any advances? If anyone can get a second name, I'll give you the point. If not, Hope gets the point.
We have a first letter.
She's got the first name, Alexa. It's a W.
Ward?
No, right. Hope gets the point. It's Alexa Webster. What are the two residence life teams called?
Red and yellow.
Yes, Sam, she gets the point. And then, who was the Sad before Alec?
Naomi Armstrong.
Point for Kat. Scores on the doors, we have Kat with 4 points, Hope and Sam with 2, and I believe Louise with 1? No, Jess with 1. Yes.
Not me.
You have time. What is the International Security Council's headline annual event?
Security Council or Student Council?
Student Council.
Is it International Week?
No, it's not.
Diversity Week.
Yeah, point for Sam. Thank you very much.
Security Council.
Where would you find the accessibility room? I'm going to give that to Louise.
They're in the library on floors -1, 0, and 1.
Could you point it out?
I can walk there now.
Okay, point.
I do the room timetables. There's one by the Steel Courtyard, there's one at the back on the left of -1, and then in the same place on floor 0 and +1.
I think that counts as a pretty comprehensive answer.
There's a room table there, every time I'm at work.
And then I'm going to say finally, before we take questions from the audience, how many vegan meal deal options are there in the Guild shop?
I'm going to go for 5.
That's correct.
Oh, is it?
So we can say at the end of that we have Catalina on 5 points, I believe, and then followed by, I believe, Hope on 3? No,
Sam on
Sam
3.
on 3, Hope on 2, and then Jess and Louise on 1. Give a round of applause, please. Right, could we have a question from the audience if anyone is interested? Right, we've got one at the front there from the man... Is that Marcel? Yeah, from Marcel. Then we'll get him a microphone. Let's just check it works.
Testing?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, so my question, obviously there's a few rent strikes going on up and down the country, most notably in London. Would any of the candidates be prepared to hold a rent strike in Exeter, or alternative policies to stop the extortionate rent that we have here?
Hayden Cooper.
Yes. I'm close friends with the people that run the UCL rent strike, which is the largest rent strike in the country for a number of years, with several thousand students refusing to pay their rents. I'm currently in talks with David Dalbourne about trying to get UCL cut the rent here at Exeter.
Alongside UCL cut the rent?
Yes.
Okay, not UPP, just to be...
UCL.
Okay, got you, just to be clear.
As well as this, I've campaigned for the past 2 years for lower rents on campus. I am working with Will Vasey and Sean Porter at the minute, establishing a student housing cooperative. We're quite close to succeeding at the minute. All we need is the final funding applications to be done. But that's also the biggest hurdle. Electing me as SAB would be a big way towards that. As well as that, I want to push for rent freezes on campus. I'd love a rent strike. That would be the dream. Like, anything to stop the uni extorting us the way they do is perfect.
Hope Hughes, is the rent strike a dream for you?
I think that the thing with a rent strike is that it's not something that could be imposed on students. Students have to make that decision themselves. The one thing that we don't want to happen is that the students be left in a vulnerable position where they're refusing to pay rent and then they're suffering from their landlords or as a result of letting agents. And I just think it's something that you would have to consult the student body on, because it requires a large number of students to participate for it to be effective. So I think that rather than coming and going, that's definitely something I would enforce, it's going to be something that you'd have to ask about.
Nick Wong, do you agree with Hayden, Hope, or do you have your own view?
I 100% agree with Hope.
Okay.
Literally everything you said, I was thinking it's
in that case,
uncanny.
I completely agree with Hope as well.
Okay.
It's totally dangerous to
do that without student approval. Samshi?
I agree with Hope as well, because students should be suffering, really.
Kat? I think Elena?
I do agree with Hope.
And then Jess Cassidy?
Agree with Hope, but think definitely the Student Guild has a role to play in publicising the campaigns and events that are going on campus. So.
Right, Marcel, does that answer your question? You are, if you can find a microphone. No.
Okay, all right. So we got the mic now. Yeah, it's not about forcing students. It's about the guild giving the support to students if they decide to do it independently. There's no one being forced to strike in UCL or the other unis. And in my question, I said, if you are against a rent strike, what are you going to do? Because actually, the rent in student accommodation and in private accommodation is simply unaffordable for most people.
I think some of the councils have already addressed some of that, in that they're saying that if it were to happen, it would have student guild approval. But I hope seems to want to come back on it.
The housing co-op was also in my manifesto, but I didn't want to repeat points just to come back on that. But that is the thing, is that you don't want to, obviously if it was student-led, if it was a student-led initiative, then we would go forward with it.
And I think that's the point that everyone else seems to agree with on you as well. Can we take another question from the audience, please? We've got one on the end over there, please. Guy with the glasses and the jumper.
Hello. Hi, everyone. First of all, well done today. I know it's quite hard to sit in front of people and speak, so I think you've all done really well, so well done. My question is about disability and making it more accessible for students and also visitors on campus. A worry for me is my granddad, who's in a wheelchair, and I want him to make the most of my day when I graduate. I was just wondering, what would you guys change within your powers, obviously, to make it more accessible for disabled students and visitors?
Kat, have you got an answer to that?
Well, sort of. So one of my manifesto points was not necessarily to do with physical disabilities, but with invisible disabilities as well, that there'd be disability training for all, like, presidents of societies and stuff.
I mean that doesn't get his granddad on campus.
No, I'm nearly there, don't worry. Regarding physical disabilities, it's a bit more difficult, just because, for example, I would say, like, oh, I'd want ramps, you know, near A and B, Prime Minister, but I just don't know where to put it. However, it's something that I could take up with someone if I were elected who has more power than me, and it's something that #chatwithkat, I'd encourage you to come into the office, chat with me about it. Any ideas you have, I'm so welcome to.
And Louise looks like she has a very different opinion on this, so...
Well, not necessarily a different opinion, but my own opinion.
Okay.
I think that we need accessibility maps of every single building. So a while ago at the SID desk, someone came in and she needed to bring her 90-year-old mum to Santander. And we were trying to explain how to get from the disabled parking out there up to Santander using lifts. And we ended up saying, come back tomorrow, let us know when you're here, and we will walk you there. Because you have to go all the way along, round to the back of the ram, then up in the lift, then all the way through the terrace. So trying to explain that to someone's really difficult. But if we had accessible maps of how to get around each building, then that would make getting this person's granddad round the forum on graduation a lot easier.
Nick, you got any different responses?
I think I completely agree with Louise. Like, yeah, I can't. I'd like to give something constructive.
But you have the same opinion, so you've
yeah.
almost both enacted it the same way.
Yeah.
Sam?
Hello. Okay, I love what Louise said. I love the idea of the maps, and also love what Kat said, because I also encourage students in my manifesto to just come and talk to me if they have any other ideas of what we could do better as a guild to help support all of you.
Yeah. Elena?
I think I have nothing to add. I do agree with all the points.
In that case, Hayden.
Cool. So I believe that disabled students need more representation. Currently, I'm on the Liberation Network Council for Invisible Physical Disabilities. So I know all too well how there's a lot of discussion and dialogue that needs to happen around physical disability issues. That is currently not happening. A group of students which I'm involved with has set up an online forum called Accessibility, or something like that with Exeter on it.
Accessibility? Is that what you're going?
Yeah, that's it. It's hard to say out loud, but it's easy to see it written down. So I think what we need to do is we need to facilitate the voices of disabled students by having
Is it going to be paid or unpaid? Sort of?
ideally a DVP position.
Okay, so like a student who will take on the role?
Yeah, ideally.
Yeah. Okay. And then Jess, and then Hope, if that's all right?
Yeah, in terms of facilitating disability, I think it's really important that our societies, we work with our societies to make sure that when it comes to including disabled students and students with particular needs, that they make the first move. So it's not the role of a student to have to say, can I please be involved, but I need you to make this change. There's some students who won't do that and will just not get involved.
To bring this back to the granddad in the question.
Okay, so
yeah.
that specifically. Definitely just support the work of trying to upgrade the buildings.
Okay.
I know there's plans to put a ramp so that you can get onto the XpressionFM where that's located.
Yeah.
And yeah, support that.
And Hope?
I think that as much as it is a very valid question to ask about visitor accessibility, I do think that student accessibility and disabled student accessibility kind of needs to be top priority, and obviously then that would lead change for visitors. I think that if you can make disabled student access better, you're going to make visitor access better. You can't unfortunately change the geography of this campus, but we can make changes and like look around to see what we can do. There are areas of this campus that are completely inaccessible if you are confined to a wheelchair. But that also is something that we need to work on. The other thing about communication and coming to talk to SABs, we also need to be more accessible with that. If you're expecting people to come to a drop-in point or expecting people to come into the SAB office, you need to expect that some people actually, their physical impairment just stop them from doing that. And I do think that that means that when we have drop-in sessions and when we're making SABs accessible, they need to be accessible over the phone, online, so that someone can do it from the comfort of their own home.
We're going to take another question, and while we're doing that, can we pass the water over here? Because these guys haven't got any water at all, and it must be terrifying to do that without anything to drink, because they're talking all evening. We have, I think, a question from a guy over there with... yes, please. Sorry. He's quite tall and with a haircut. Yep, you got him.
Hi, I'm Tom, and I'm the Faith and Worldview Society's executive this year. I've had great support from Alec this year, so thanks to him for that.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
How are you doing?
But I'd like to know how each of you would support our 7,000 religious students as VP Welfare and Diversity.
Right, 7,000 religious students. Sam?
Oh, sorry.
How would you support 7,000 religious students on campus?
Wow. That's awesome. Okay.
Do you want a minute to think about it, or?
Can I have like a minute to think about it, because it's a question I have to think about. I'm pouring water.
Okay. Is anyone else who's got an idea? I saw Kat's hand first.
Well, yeah, so before I completed my manifesto, I actually messaged Tom about this to see what the big issues were, and a multi-faith prayer room is something really important for both St Luke's and Streatham, so that it's accessible for all the students. And I know that you're probably about to say space is a huge issue, but when it's something that's so important and so important for 70,000 students...
7,000.
7,000.
There's more, that's
who
more
knows?
students
Who
around this
knows?
campus.
7,000 students, that's something that needs a priority, and I would make that one of my priorities this coming year.
I think, was it Jess or Hope also had their hand up?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the things I really wanted to stress in my manifesto was the role of VP Welfare and Diversity in enabling religious societies as well as cultural societies, for example, to have better publicity for their events. I think the CU does an amazing job of really getting people involved. But I think definitely making sure that there's clearer publicity for all the talks that potentially society is going to put on through like an integrated calendar with everything that's going on in one place, so that students at Exeter are aware of everything that's going on and can learn more about the religions and other religions, and that really does help help create an environment where it's about sharing. It's not about it's seen as something to share and to learn from.
And then Sam.
Okay, I just have like...
And then Nicola after.
Oh, sorry. I have 2 points. Just want to thank chaplaincy for all the amazing work you do, because I think I've had meetings with some religious societies as well, and they do a lot of amazing things like multi-faith week and stuff like that. And I'll fully support just celebrating the diversity that we have on campus through events such as multi-faith week. And also in my manifesto with expanding Never Okay, I also think that it is not good to discriminate according to your religion. Just say, because once, as I said before, I have friends who got discriminated because of their race and religion and stuff like that. And I just kind of want to make it a safer environment so people just know it's not okay to just generally discriminate, and generally make it a safer environment for people who are religious to practice their religion or like sort of openly show their religion.
And then Nick, do you have a different opinion, or do you agree with some of the views already.
I completely agree with the need for an interfaith room, a multi-faith room. But I do agree that issue on space is I'm sorry, I can't speak English today.
Is a big issue.
Yeah, on campus. But the thing is, I think that the guild should work harder to also make local links, because there is space across Exeter, across our community. And one of my huge manifesto points is this campaign called Breaking Bad. And it's a long time...
Breaking barriers or breaking bad?
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I can't speak English today. I have said my own name wrong. So today's not a good day for me.
Breaking barriers.
Breaking barriers, yes. And it's a long-term commitment to diversity. I think diversity is something to be celebrated. You know, there are so many different faiths, you know, different countries, different cultures that are present on this campus, and I think that's something that needs to be celebrated, and it's something that I want to bring in link with the local community. I think we should fully utilize forum space, space across campus, and space across the community, and by creating those local links, it kind of fosters a better relationship in Exeter and with the university. That's like my almost number one priority.
Elena, have you got any views on this in terms of multi-faith?
Yes.
Well, sorry, yeah, multi-faith spaces for the 7,000 students.
I was going to stress more about events as well. I do think they are very important. We have to support them. We have to encourage more of those events, because people have to learn about different religions. They have to overcome racism with the help of learning about different religions. Yeah.
Hayden?
Yeah, so originally a multi-faith prayer room was in my manifesto, but word count. But really, when we talk about religious students on campus, we need to acknowledge a lot of issues. I've already talked about prevent, so I won't go into it any further, which is a particular danger to Muslim students. But things like cheaper vegan options on campus aren't just beneficial to vegan students, they're beneficial to Jewish and Muslim students who have a small amount of kosher and halal options. So things like that will really help everybody.
So far we had a pretty diverse range of opinions, from events to space to data requirements. Anything else to add? I believe, Louise and Hope, you haven't talked yet?
Yeah, I think the main thing that I would add is that whatever decision I did make, or whatever decision any of us, if elected, made, it would have to be community-led. There's nothing that we can do. There's no kind of opinion that we can enforce on different groups, whether that be in terms of religion, whether it be in terms of race, whether it be in terms of gender or sexuality. That those groups need to decide how they're represented, and we need to just do our best to allow that to happen. It shouldn't be that I'm going to dictate to you, this is what I want to do with the different faith groups. It should be the faith groups coming to me and saying, we want this, what can you do for me?
And then Louisa, you've talked yet?
I have not talked yet. I completely agree with Nicola and Hope. I think they are totally on the ball. As a student community warden, I am all over the community engagement and, combining Exeter University and the community, because we live there and it is our home. If we are all Exeter, then we should be including Exeter
that's
community.
a hashtag use.
That's a hashtag use.
Right.
And also, from what Hope said, it's all about kind of sub-transparency and having that kind of communication levels with multi-faith groups, because I don't belong to any faith, so I can't speak on behalf of the needs of people who do. So I want them to make their voices louder. I don't want to shout on their behalf.
Okay, I think, as far as where everyone's talked, we're going to move on because we've only got 10 minutes left. So, a question from Twitter from Joseph Zollner. Why do we even need a welfare VP? Are these weak manifesto promises really worth $18,500 a year, which would be these people's salaries were they elected? Elena?
Again, if we are talking about mental health, I believe that student guild representatives are there for voicing students' opinions, are there for voicing students' problems, are there for supporting them, and they are there because they are the ones who have the experience, and yeah, basically they are the ones who know
Louise?
everything.
If people didn't want a welfare and diversity SAB, they wouldn't vote for one.
So there we go, so simple as.
There we go.
And yes.
Yeah, I think that's it's a valid question, but I completely disagree. I think absolutely at any one time on this campus there are people at uni who aren't getting the most out of it, have things that they really need sorting out by university, but also students who have been through the student experience, potentially have seen how things can be improved, how things can be difficult and pose barriers to people getting involved. We need them Absolutely.
So needed because there's so many voices, needed because otherwise people wouldn't vote. Any other opinions or agree with Hope?
I think just picking up probably a little bit on the tweet itself. Did they say VP Welfare Sab?
They said VP Welfare
The
Sab.
fact that they've even dropped the diversity shows why we're needed. Like, not all of us are ever going to be able to descriptively represent every student group on campus, but the whole point is that we are there to project those voices. You specifically dropped the diversity element of the welfare and diversity staff.
I mean, I did.
And then asked...
Give me
No,
credit.
the tweeter has specifically dropped the diversity element, which is the issue. And that is why, like, we are here to promote voices. We are here not for ourselves, but to empower voices around us.
Sam, you got your hand raised?
We are here to empower voices. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly with you.
Okay.
But we also are here to promote inclusion as well, to create a more big community vibe that is Exeter, that is the university that we all go to and hopefully we love to go to. So I think that is one of the main roles of welfare and diversity, to promote inclusion as well.
Hayden, you had your hand up, I think.
Yeah, so of course we need a welfare and diversity SAB. We've got post-grad stress data from TEF. We've got a 6-month waiting list for extreme cases in the Wellbeing Centre. I spoke to a student the other day who waited a year to be referred. We need a welfare SAB. We've got swastikas being drawn on campus. We need a welfare SAB more than ever. We need 10 of them.
Kat, do you agree with 10 welfare SABs?
I think just one's probably enough, otherwise we wouldn't be able to afford it. But one thing I do want to say is I don't think... I've read everyone's manifesto here, and there were no weak points in their manifestos, so I back them all as well as I back myself, obviously.
So any of them would be good to be elected?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Nick?
We need a welfare SAB because sometimes there are things that no matter how much the student body, you know, like we can protest, we can say all these things, but you need someone there, like as a member of the entire community, to just go on and say it and put it into action, put it into place, because sometimes we can make all the noise in the world, but no one's going to listen. And we need someone who will listen and actually just do it.
So, quick question to Power on diversity, because it was raised, because the question itself just called it Welfare VP. It's pretty notable, looking across all the manifestos, there's barely any mention of, say, LGBTQ plus society or feminist society in most of your manifestos. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So what would you do to support them and other minorities, including race, sexuality, gender, and so many more on campus? I think we'll start with Sam on that one.
Okay, so I mentioned drop-in sessions and possibly a booth in the forum for people to just come and talk to me, because I personally am... even though I'm an international student, I'm male, I'm cisgendered, I cannot talk for everyone and every single group. So I would just like people to just come to me with their ideas, because my ideas they might be good, but they might not be the best ideas for inclusion for everyone. So I just want to know everyone's views on it.
I mean, on the other side of that, though, you are running for the position to represent everyone. Have you not done any research into, say, LGBTQ SOC or FemSOC beforehand?
I tried to do some research, but I think obviously the manifesto notes the things that are very important to me for now, and I think that racial prejudice is one of the more important things for me personally, because one, I'm an international student, and two, a lot of my friends, and I mean a lot of my friends, they talk about racial prejudice a lot, and they are victims of racial prejudice. So even though I do agree that LGBTQ and fem society, their views are all also very important, because they're students and they should be supported. I think I'd just like to have more conversations with them, so we could possibly make this guild a better place for everyone, and this uni a better place for everyone. Hope?
Ex-FemSOC committee member. So that was kind of why that I didn't specifically mention FemSOC. I had a really, really constructive meeting with Lotta, the welfare officer for LGBTQ, when I was making my manifesto. I specifically have points on updating the student record system, so it would be easier for people to change their pronouns if necessary, and preferred names, which I do think is something that is really important, because having spoken to people who are representative of that community, it is an important thing to me. Generally about FemSOC, I have consent training on my manifesto. I really don't think that I left those groups out of my manifesto, but obviously it's a 500 word count limit, and anything that anyone wanted me to develop, I would be more than open to.
Just a quick note, we have about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to have to encourage fast as possible answers, please. That was a mess, Nick.
Definitely, it's a huge part of my manifesto. I do focus more on the racial aspect, just because at least twice a week, every week for the last 3 years, someone has called me a dirty... Am I allowed to say it?
I don't know what you're going to say, but I mean...
Okay, I have to say it. I have been called a dirty chink at least twice a week, every single year, all my time at Exeter. Sometimes it's a student, sometimes it's a local. And honestly, it literally, every time I hear it, it breaks my heart. And I know that definitely FemSoc and LGBTQA, and I have spoken to Lotta, they have incredible...
Everyone's spoken to Lotta.
I mean, she's great. Like, everyone has incredibly valid and important issues, but I think that definitely racial issues are something that is so, like, it's under-acknowledged, and no one's ever not spoken about it, but no one's ever tried to put in an actual campaign for change, and I think...
So you agree with Sam in that sense?
Yeah, but I also, like, the thing with breaking barriers is that it's meant to be open for everyone. It's meant to be open for LGBTQA, for FemSoc. I have spoken to Lotta about installing more gender-neutral toilets because gender is a construct, guys.
And then Louise.
So one thing that I would like to do, I'd like to have some kind of like educational festival or week or something. So for instance, when it's International Women's Day, we could turn it into a whole week where we have women from all cultures talking about where they come from, their story, where they're going and the oppressions they still face. I think it's really important that we educate people that, you know, oppression still happens. It might not be as bad as it was. Yeah, women can vote now, but that doesn't mean that, you know, we've got equality. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, you're all right. It's fine. You know, women are fine now. Like, you don't have to be in the kitchen all the time. But that's not enough.
Like it all the time. But yeah, Jess?
Yeah, I also spoke to the LGBTQ+ society before writing my manifesto and in the process. And it was really interesting. I learned actually so much. And I did put in my manifesto installing more gender-neutral toilets. And in my video, you can see my friend in the toilet cubicle in that clip.
You sort of look like you're reminiscing.
I know, it was very fun to film. Sorry, anyway. But yeah, I do think it is them subtle things like that we don't see that are really, really important and make the difference of students feeling included or not by the university. And for example, changing rooms in sports facilities, if a student is uncomfortable about having to choose between a male and female changing room, that can get in the way of them taking part in like the activities of the AU as well.
Elena?
Even though I'm an international student, I personally haven't encountered any racial issues so far. So I would probably stress LGBT societies more. I don't want to compare religion to LGBT issues, but I also think we need to have more events to encourage people to get to know all the LGBT issues and basically everything around this area.
I mean, all I'd ask is, was that on your manifesto?
Nope.
Okay.
That's what I came up with now.
Hey, I'd love this question. I'm going to go a little bit off the manifesto just because it's things like word count cut out. So, Black History Month. We do very little compared to other universities. I've got a friend who's a SAB at Plymouth, and they have events. They had an event basically one a day for the entirety of Black History Month, which is in October, not February. Don't know why we're doing it this month. As well as that, you know, I've got in my manifesto, I've got prevent. I've also got anti-deportation portfolio for international students. I've worked on several anti-deportation campaigns nationally in the past. Really want to get something done for Exeter on this. As well as this, as a genderqueer individual, I'm obviously going to fight for LGBT rights. Clearly, it's me. Why would I not fight for it? As well, I also want to bring up the class issue. Exeter has basically very little support for working class students. And I think it's very, very vital that we hammer home class as a liberation issue alongside LGBT issues.
I'm really sorry, we've only got 2 minutes left and I want to let other candidates talk too. But that wasn't to cut you off. That was
that's fine.
I mean, it was to cut you off.
Most of my campaign is made from
I think who hasn't talked? Is it Kat? Sam, have you said? Yeah, you have. Kat.
So I did message the LGBTQ plus president, but I didn't get a response, unfortunately. Obviously, if I was elected, then I would invite like the whole society, well, not the committee to have a meeting with me and figure out exactly what their needs were.
Bring invite the society, bring biscuits, it'd be great.
If I found a venue. And then regarding FemSoc, I am a feminist myself, and any event that they'd want to put forward, as long as I'm sure it would be a great event. Obviously, if it was something outrageous, I wouldn't agree, but I would probably...
What do you mean by outrageous?
I don't know, like, kill people, That's
Is that what you think FemSoc would do?
No, of course not. Stop twisting my words, James. Come on. I'm just saying but I can't obviously guarantee that I would back it until I've heard the idea.
Okay, right. We have it's literally 8 o'clock. Final question to the audience that you think could be answered in a yes or no. Oh, we've got, right. You think that yes or no? They could all do it in yes or no? Yeah. Right. Can someone get a mic to the person at the front, please?
Do the candidates support TEF?
TEF, the Teaching Excellence Framework, that's the one. We're going to go from Sam to Kat. TEF. Just give you some background. Actually, no, you can give me some background. TEF, if TEF, we get a gold award on the TEF, students can have their fees raised. Do you support it?
I don't think I like fees being supported, so no.
Yes or no?
No.
No. Hayden?
God, no.
Elena?
No.
Never.
Just to let you know the guild policy is that we currently do support TEF, just so you know. Louise?
I would like to do more research before I give an answer.
Okay. Jess?
Yeah, not going to lie, never heard of it in my life, and I'm not very good with abbreviations. But I'm getting the vibe that it's bad, but I'm going to hold back on my answer.
Okay.
I would say not with the recent changes to questions.
Recent change. Oh, okay. That was an impressive answer. Do you want to go into a bit of that?
Basically, TEF is the Teaching Excellence Framework, and they've tried to change their approach so that when they talk about student satisfaction, they don't actually talk about societies, they don't actually talk about the extra stuff we get outside of education. And I think that really minimises the whole experience because it means that we can't have opinions.
I was too curious. I should have said yes or no.
I'm sorry. Basically, it means that if you're like my university life, if your university life is shaped more by your extracurricular stuff and societies and the people you've been involved with and the affordability of the university, that doesn't count on TEF. What TEF counts on is how it affects your education, not everything else that makes up a university experience.
I mean, that's one definition of yes or no. Kat?
Sorry. A solid maybe.
Yes or no?
I agree with what Hope said, so if it were to change, then sure.
Okay.
If at the moment,
Otherwise,
probably not.
Okay, right. I'm afraid that is the end. We have actually overrun by 2 minutes, so I can only apologise to those who stayed.
Sorry.
Thank you very much to Kat, Hope, Jess, Louise, Nick, Elena, Hayden and Sam, and for all you putting up with what has been a very busy debate. Can we have a round of applause? Thank you ever so much for coming. Do vote online. We'd encourage you all to vote. We're going to take a 50-minute break now, followed by the VP Education debate, which will be chaired by the Head of News, James Cunningham. If you want to catch up on any of these debates, if you're going home early, you can do it all and look at more analysis on the XpressionFM Facebook page. And tomorrow at 7, we'll be hosting the postgraduate debates. See you then.
That was the first and final welfare and diversities debate. I've got Marie here with me.
Hello.
I've got Hannah.
Hello.
And I've got Joe.
Chris.
Hey. Oh, Chris, sorry. Okay. So I'm gonna start with you, Hannah. What was your general assessment of the debates tonight?
I thought it was a good debate tonight, lively as we expected. For me, there were a couple of people that dominated it, and that would be Hope Hughes and also Kat had the sort of main say, I would say, in the debate tonight. Having said that, I think all the candidates performed well. You've got to remember it's quite a precious situation, so I think they all did quite well under the circumstances.
How about you, Marie? What do you think?
I thought it was an interesting debate. I'm glad that many different points were discussed, and I also agree that I think maybe the right-hand side of the discussion, if you were watching on the live stream, so mainly Hope, Kat, and Jessie and Louise, I think they were speaking the most, maybe giving them the most innovative answers. And I thought it was an interesting debate, and also a debate that clearly showed that some candidates were more prepared than others.
Yeah, totally agree. Chris, your general assessment
of this debate?
Yeah.
I thought I was going to talk about the latest debate.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Okay then. Should we just talk about who your standouts were? Marie, who do you think actually won the debate? Who won the night?
Well, okay, I think Kat managed to show that she's experienced. She talked about a lot of things that she had worked on in this past year in her role, but she also talked about new ideas she had and really showed that she's experienced, she knows what she's doing. But other than that, for me personally, Hope stood out the most. I really like her idea about giving drug testing kits to students. I like that she has experience with FemSoc, something that other candidates could not comment on at all, for example. And she has ideas such as helping students find their way home safely. So my personal favorite was Hope. I would say. I think.
Would you agree with that, Hannah?
I think I would actually have to agree with that. Yeah, she seemed to respond very well to every question that was thrown at her. At one stage, everyone else could only agree with her, which I think says a lot about maybe their own ideas. Granted, she was the first person to speak up on the issue, but I think very much so she dominated the debate tonight.
I agree. That moment when they asked about, I think it was like a disability question, and Hope gave the second answer, I think. And then James Cunningham, who was moderating the debate, went to each candidate and said, "What do you think?" And they all said, "I agree with Hope, I agree with Hope, and I agree with Hope." And I thought that looked really bad on them. Who do you think has had the worst night tonight?
Well, to be honest, I think that Olena has kind of stood out as the least well prepared. She is only a second year, so we shouldn't be too critical, but she did not bring up any new points. She only introduced herself for maybe 15 seconds. She really didn't give the audience the feeling that she was prepared, that she had a vision. And I interviewed her earlier today, and I sort of had that same impression that there was maybe just a lack of experience and a lack of knowledge on how to get things done and on what really needs to be done. Other than that, I thought Sam also kind of lacked some he lacked some knowledge about some areas. He was asked about, like a multi-faith prayer room, and he couldn't give an answer right away. And I think as a welfare and diversity VP candidate, you need to have those things prepared. You need to be ready to give a good answer. And I also think that a lot of times candidates reverted back to saying, I would want the impetus to come from the students. I would need the students to come to me and say, we want a multi-faith prayer room, things like that. And that is true to some extent, but on the other hand, you are being elected by the students to represent them. So there needs to be a motivation, there needs to be ideas, there needs to be a push coming from you as well.
And sort of just to add to that, a lot of the things, James did a really good job of chairing the debate tonight, obviously, so shout out to him. But a lot of things candidates came up with which sounded good, but having spent the weekend scrutinising manifestos, a lot of those things weren't mentioned there, which really makes you question the extent to which some of the candidates are committed to delivering the things that they've said tonight, really.
Do you think, as a result of this particular debate, that either one or more of these candidates would have stood out and perhaps given their campaign that extra push it needed?
Someone who I did think came across quite well tonight, which surprised me, was actually Hayden Cooper. I think he spoke very well. Having read his manifesto, it's quite radical. It's not necessarily someone that I would have said stood out within the campaign in terms of the chances of being successful. But I think actually he came across quite well tonight in terms of the way he expressed his ideas, the way he responded, particularly to questions from the audience. I think he had a good one tonight, actually.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. He was also good at mentioning, his past experience. He is a very involved student at Exeter, so he really was able to make himself stand out by saying, I have been involved with this, I've helped with this, and it's not just empty words that I'm giving to you. So I really think he managed to stand out, and I think even for Kat, it was also a great opportunity to sort of maybe even clear up some things, because James did ask about her campaign promises on self-defense classes that she she planned on implementing this past year, and she did manage to defend herself and say this is in the works, this will probably happen starting next week, and I am coming through on my promises that I made in my past position. So I think, some candidates definitely managed to sort of show that they're involved and they know what they're doing.
Awesome. I believe the next debate is going to start in about 7 or 8 minutes. So I just want to have a quick chat with Chris about what do you think we can expect in the debates for, it's VP Education, right?
That's right, yeah. Yeah, so looking at their manifestos, I think they're all focusing on study space, and there's a lot of things about time, how time is spent with exams and with reading week and things like that. And then other than that, they've got some things on the year abroad as well, some interesting ideas on how to make the year abroad more effective.
Okay.
They've also, each of them, got some quite original out there ideas just to make student life better.
So how many candidates are running for VP activities?
Three.
Any standouts, just looking at their manifestos? Which one looks perhaps a bit more feasible? Which ones look perhaps a bit too much?
So for me, I felt that it was harder to pick holes in Matt's manifesto. There weren't the same number of things that I thought that's really quite unrealistic, as opposed to a couple of things in Bryony and Helena's manifestos.
Okay. Is there like a general theme perhaps, or perhaps a policy which keeps reoccurring in each of their manifestos that you've noticed? Like, are they all kind of repeating themselves, or do they all seem pretty distinct?
I think, to be honest, they all have a good distinction. They've all got some fairly original ideas. There are, as I say, study space always crops up. Time always crops up, and diversity, even within the education department, even though it's not really as much their domain, that's definitely cropping up. So I expect those to be talked about quite a lot, and the way that SSLCs are organised as well, I think.
If you were running the campaigns of one of these candidates, what would you tell them tonight?
I think I'd tell them to be confident.
Yeah.
I think I'd tell them to look at their weaknesses and really bolster those, because each of them definitely have some unrealistic or possibly unpopular elements to their manifestos. There are some things that I feel might sound pleasing to students, but maybe might be difficult to follow up, or that actually staff might object to.
Okay, I'm just going to ask Hannah and Marie. I know you are mainly researching the welfare and diversity candidates, but again, same question I asked him. What advice would you give these candidates tonight?
Well, I think in situations where you're speaking in front of a lot of people, I mean, it's important to just be confident in what you're saying. You know, don't try to be prepared. Don't ask, for a minute to think things over, because as a candidate, you're expected to know what you're going for. So I think be prepared, be confident. Don't repeat what other candidates have said, and don't just agree with other candidates the whole time, because even though you might agree, that just makes the other candidate stronger. That doesn't build your own case. So I think, have a personality, be confident, and be prepared.
Just to add to that, really, it's going to be a different dynamic. There's only 3 candidates rather than 8 compared to what we just saw. It's a lot more speaking time, and it's an hour to fill, so it's potentially going to be harder to keep momentum for the candidates. But really, I think they just want to be looking to make the most of the time they have to express their ideas and convince people to vote for them.
Awesome. Chris, looking at these manifestos, I can see that you've done a lot of highlighting and clearly dissected them. Does one stand out as perhaps being the weakest among the 3?
Oh, so cruel. That's difficult to say. I think, if I'm honest, I think in the interviews, perhaps Helena didn't come back from when she was pushed every time. But I do think each of them definitely has their own merits, and they all have original ideas, and they're all definitely in with a chance.
Which one would you say has a clearer message, a more coherent, easy to deliver message?
That's a good question. I think Bryony is pretty coherent with the kind of things that she wants.
Yeah.
I think a couple of the problems with what she's saying is with time and resources. It possibly could be unrealistic with what she's asking for.
I'm guessing you've also looked into like what they've done, like yeah.
Mm.
Can you just give us a brief overview of what each candidate has done and what makes them think they're qualified to take on this role?
Yeah, sure. So we've got Matt, who was Expose editor, which obviously is no mean feat, really. He was lead German course representative, which is good, but doesn't particularly make him stand out because all three candidates have been in the SSLCs. Helena Leslie, as she said in the interview today, actually, she's an ancient historian, but more importantly, she was in the SSLC as the other two. But most importantly, she was societies officer. So she's the one that actually has experience in the guild, which when I asked her what made her stand out today, she said she thought that was what made her stand out. And finally, Bryony.
Yeah.
She was a theology and Arabic student, and she was previously an SSLC rep. So as I say, they've all got experience in SSLC, but in previous experience, I think Helena probably stands out.
Awesome. I'm just going to throw it back to Hannah and Marie. I'm sorry it's a bit of a mess tonight, but okay, I'm just going to ask you one final question. The debates are done for the welfare and diversity candidates. Moving forward, what would you say perhaps is their core strength? What should these candidates focus on moving forward? If you can be specific to each candidate, that would be even better. Should we start with Hannah? Moving
the
forward?
welfare and diversity candidates.
Yeah.
I think the candidates that did well tonight continue to build on those. The thing that they have to focus on is the feasibility of the promises they're making, exactly how they're going to do it. Housing, for example, is a big issue where lots of them have said, yeah, freeze rent prices. How do you think you're going to do that when that's been a promise that has been in pretty much every diversity and welfare manifesto that you can find on the internet? So focusing on how to improve those, how to deliver those promises. For the candidates that perhaps didn't deliver so well tonight, I think they're going to have to focus a lot more on their physical campaign throughout the week, being on Forum Hill, getting the campaign team out there, getting stuff online, and just sort of trying to bring it back, really.
Marie?
In terms of individual feedback, obviously 8 people is a lot to give individual feedback to, but maybe for someone like Hayden Cooper, who has very extreme views and who voiced opinions like he wants to definitely encourage, a rent strike in Exeter, I'd say maybe be careful to not adopt views that many students would not get behind. Maybe try to not be too extreme and don't initiate things that that maybe the majority of students wouldn't necessarily want or wouldn't necessarily participate in. Other than that, to maybe candidates who are a bit more quiet tonight, like Olena or even Sam, try to engage with students in the next couple of days, make the most of the rest of this week, and show that even though you didn't speak a lot during the debate, you do have fresh ideas and things as such. And maybe one comment I'd have on Louise is that, seeing as she is a postgrad and she did talk a lot about postgrad issues, which is a good thing because I feel like a lot of times those are things that are not mentioned enough. She also needs to be careful to sort of stay connected to the undergrad student body, because if they feel that her focus is mainly on postgraduates and postgraduates who are working, then students could feel like they're not being properly represented by her. So those are sort of the random pieces of advice I would give to some of the candidates of tonight.
Okay, so I've just been told that the candidates are back on, I think, the education yeah, I think the candidates for VP Education are just about to go live. So I'm going to throw it to them, and hopefully we'll get something.